Hi everyone, Ryan here with Fight Game Analysis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming fight between Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns. If you've been enjoying the content, please go ahead and click on the like button and also subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate your support. Alright, so a big fight coming up here, UFC 258. Kamaru Usman is going to be defending his welterweight title against Gilbert Burns. Now this is a fight that's been a long time coming in some ways. It was originally scheduled to be for early last year, but then due to injuries and COVID and some other stuff, it got, Gilbert Burns pulled out and then it got postponed. One of those times that he pulled out is when Jorge Masvidal stepped in on short notice and Kamaru defended against him. So we've been looking forward to this one for a long time. There's been a lot of hype about it, so it's good to finally see that it's here. So let's go ahead and start out by taking a look at the champ, Kamaru Usman. Through and through, this man is a wrestler. He's got a wrestling background before coming to MMA, and once he got here, you can see that wrestling is his bread and butter. I will say, it's not just a traditional wrestling, even though he comes from a collegiate wrestling background. He works really well in the clinch. He does a lot of good things. It's not just your standard going for a single leg, going for a double leg. He does a lot with it. It makes him really dangerous. He's also big, super strong for the division. He's got some really long reach that he knows how to use. He really knows how to use it all well. But on top of that, he's been improving his striking as well. Now, he was working with Henry Hoof for a long time. First down at Hard Knocks 365, then once the gym got rebranded to Sanford MMA. That's actually where him and Gilbert Burns train together. They used to be training partners, so they've got some experience outside of the ring and in the gym doing sparring, things like that. But his striking improved a lot under Henry Hoof. When you look at his early fights, when he first came into the UFC to now, his striking is light years better. The most impressed I was with it was against Colby Covington. Like, neither one of them dudes basically went for a takedown. They kept it as a striking match, even though they've both got that heavy wrestling background, but I was really impressed. That being said, obviously it's not perfect. He does have some deficiencies. But when I look at the highlights in his striking game, he's got that length and he knows how to use it really well. He's got a really good jab and he's got good timing on that jab. He sticks it out there really straight. And since he's got that length, it allows him to keep his opponents at distance. He's got a good right hand behind it. He can keep that right hand straight or kind of arc it a little bit. He's got a good front kick that he uses to keep distance. But again, that's not his bread and butter. His bread and butter is the grappling and the wrestling. So what he loves to do when he gets in there is get in the clinch, get chest to chest. I loved what he did when he was in that position with Woodley. Okay, that's when he was able to use the strength of his grappling game. Gets Woodley, his back up against the fence, gets chest to chest with him, kind of locks that underhook with his left arm. And then he's able to kind of pop his hips back and he's able to gain some space, but still able to land some good body shots. And it's because he's got such long arms. He's able to get in there and he's able to be effective in positions that guys aren't usually able to be effective from. On top of that, he's got some really good ground and pound. Once he does get a guy down, good heavy top position, he can hold him there. Makes it really difficult to beat him. Highlighting his flaws that I was saying about his striking game, he does have some of those. His defense isn't great. Keeps his head on the center line a lot. Doesn't block shots all that well. Footwork isn't great, kind of flat-footed. He's there to be hit. That's how come we saw him in the fights that he gets caught. Fights with Colby Covington, even a fight with Tyron Woodley. He got caught with some shots. Jorge Masvidal lit him up with some good ones. There's definitely some work to be done there. That being said, I expect there to be some improvement to his game. Because as I mentioned before, he was teammates with Gilbert Burns, but once this fight with Gilbert Burns got scheduled last year, he changed from working at that gym, Sanford MMA, with Henry Hoof. Gilbert Burns stayed there. Usman left. He went over and started working with Jason Perillo. It's good. Jason Perillo's a top-notch coach. Not to say that Henry Hoof isn't world-class. He absolutely is. But it's good to just get a different aspect look at your game. Just have somebody else come in, tweak things a little bit, tell you what they think you're missing, what they think you can work on. Typically, it'll really help a fighter round out his overall game. On the other hand, we've got Gilbert Burns. Man, this dude is something else. He comes over as a Brazilian jiu-jitsu wizard, right? Heavily credentialed, won a lot of titles, a lot of world championships, a lot of, we'll just say tournaments and things like that over in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Really, really well respected in that world before he makes the trek over to MMA. And kind of the same thing. Once he makes the move over, he's working heavily in that. That's what he's kind of leaning on as he's working his way up the ranks. And then he's improving his striking game. Now, the thing that I noticed most about him is his explosiveness. He's a good athlete. He's really explosive. He likes to be aggressive. He likes to come forward when he's on that front foot and he can dictate action. He gets some good heavy shots off. He's got good combinations that he throws. But I love his leg kicks. I love his leg kicks. You see the leg kicks he landed against Kunchenko, the ones he landed against Gunnar Nelson. He landed some against Woodley. Like, his leg kicks are good. And that's going to be very key in this fight with Usman, because Usman's, with that wrestling background, with the way he likes to clinch, especially in the small octagon, he's heavy on that front foot. He likes to come forward. And one of the answers to a guy who's heavy on his front foot is to kick that leg. Ask Conor McGregor how he feels about those leg kicks. You know, ask Uriah Faber about it from his fight with Jose Aldo, how he feels about those kicks. You know, Uriah Faber was just catching him in the thigh. I mean, when you take him low like Dustin Poirier did or Gilbert Burns does and put him in the calf, oh, man, they can tear that leg up fast. You do not have to land too many of those. Here's the thing about both these guys. When they get into the octagon, how's this going to look on Saturday night? One of the things that you got to keep in mind is neither one of these guys are very defensive oriented. They're not defensive wizards. So they're both there to be hit a lot. So I expect both guys to get off shots in a striking game. They both like to come forward too. So they're both going to come out there towards the center. Usman's going to try to establish distance with that long jab and that right hand. He's going to start throwing that front kick. And he's got the reach advantage in this fight. And he's going to be able to use those. It's going to be able to work. You know, you're going to have Burns on the other hand, who's going to start to be explosive. And he's going to try to get his shots off. Usman's there to be hit. Both of them are, like I said. So both of these guys are going to start to get shots off. Now, the key to this fight, in my mind, for each guy, right, on the one hand, the key to the fight for Burns, he's going to absolutely 100% get those leg kicks off. He has to. Usman is susceptible to those leg kicks. We saw it when he was fighting against Colby Covington. We saw it against Masvidal. We saw it against Woodley. All those guys got off those low calf kicks on him. Okay, it's because he's heavy on that front foot. Now, he's always susceptible to it, but the reason people don't use him more is because Usman's such a good wrestler. They're worried about getting countered with a takedown and then being on bottom for the next 3 minutes in the round. Gilbert Burns is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu ace. Maybe he figures he's just going to dig into those leg kicks. If he gets taken down, he's got ways to get back up. Maybe he's not too worried about that. He wants to cause that damage. Maybe he just figures he's going to be able to get those kicks off and use some footwork and get out of the way. Not sure, but either way, as far as the striking game is concerned, he absolutely has to get those kicks going because that's going to deaden that leg. It's going to stop Usman's forward pressure. It's going to stop how much he can turn into and lean into his shots. It's going to just work beneficial to him in a variety of ways. Otherwise, if he does not get those leg kicks going, I absolutely believe Usman's going to be able to come forward. And if he's able to come forward and he's the aggressor, he gets that jab going in that front kick to establish distance, starts landing that right hand. He's got some good timing on it. You know, neither one of these guys can fight all that well going backwards. They're not counter-punching wizards or anything like that. But Usman's got some good timing on some of his shots, particularly with that right hand. We saw it against Covington. He can go in there and he can get a few things done. And eventually that's all just, all that's doing is allowing him to continue to work forward and get to where he really wants to get, which is up against the cage. Okay, we saw Burns. He gives up clinch time. Like Gilbert Burns doesn't mind being in the clinch. I mean, it's not necessarily his favorite position to be, but you can get him in there. We saw it against multiple opponents, particularly Gunnar Nelson. Like Gunnar Nelson's able to get him on the cage. He's able to hold him up against there. Woodley had him up there. And even though he was holding Woodley a lot, Woodley was able to turn him at times. Man, that is Usman's absolute favorite position. He loves being in the clinch. If you allow him to get there, hold you up against the cage, he's going to work the body. He's going to knee you in the thigh and stomp the foot, but all before trying to get to a takedown and then just, ground and pound you on top of there. Like, man, it's going to be a long night for Gilbert Burns if he allows that to happen. And ultimately, that is why I'm going with Kamaru Usman in this fight. I think he's going to be able to get his stuff going. It should be a really good fight, but I think Usman's going to have the advantage for cardio, work rate. I think he's a little bit more technical as a striker. He's going to be able to get those jabs going and hold his distance and back Burns up against the cage, get into that clinch and do his work. So let me know what you guys think. Is this going to be another title defense for Usman, or is this going to be the time when Gilbert Burns comes out and snatches up the belt and starts a new title reign? Let me know.